Matthew. Okay, bye, honey. All right, so we're going to begin. Hi, Patrick. All right, so we're going to begin now. Welcome back to those of you who have been here before, and welcome to anybody who's new. Hi, Timothy. And your hair. Yes, sometimes we have to get rid of it. All right, so my name is Ani Pomo. I am a Buddhist nun for 26 years now, and I'm the director of Songtsen Gampo Buddhist Center of Cleveland. After this video, because I didn't have time before, I'm going to put all the links below, but you can look at the videos I've done in the past. So the links to the website, to the newsletter, to make a donation. If you can make a donation, we certainly understand if you can't, times are tough, but if you can, we really appreciate it. It really helps us to be able to continue offering free things like this. So let's begin. So before we start, we want to begin with a Bodhichitta Motivation. So Bodhichitta is, again, the wish to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. So that is the whole purpose of this path. That's the whole goal that we have, is to attain enlightenment for others. Of course, we're including ourselves in that, right? Of course, we also want to be happy. We also want to be free from suffering. But the main goal is so that we can help others to be free from suffering as well. Okay? So with that in mind, with a really good heart, with a lot of compassion for the suffering of others, we set that as our motivation for the time that we're going to spend together this morning. Then I would like to mention our precious teachers. So our main teachers are Jigme Khyentse Rinpoche, Tukul Pema Wangyal Rinpoche, and Taku Mata Rinpoche. And you can read about all three of them on our website, BuddhistCleveland.org. And they are incredible masters, and we owe them a great debt of gratitude and respect. And the best way to repay their kindness is to practice. They don't want our money. They don't want our service, pouring them tea or cleaning their room or what have you. They want us to practice. They want us to attain enlightenment. That is their goal. So if we want to repay their kindness, then we want to practice. So this is what we're going to do today. So today I want to discuss the topic of death and dying, death awareness in particular, and why I want to talk about that particularly today, excuse me, this microphone closer, is because of the pandemic. There's so many people dying all over the world, and there's so many people who are afraid of dying right now, including myself. We don't want to go to the grocery store. We're so scared, right? And then we have all those people that we hear about often, of course, the frontline workers who are probably terrified every day, and then their families, and then, the people who work driving buses, people who work in the grocery store, people who run the subways, people who are serving the public on a regular basis. They're in a lot of danger, and they are in a situation where they are thinking about death a lot more than usual, as are we, if we allow ourselves to actually think about it. Okay? So this death awareness is something that is quite important in the Buddhist path, not so that we can be morbid or go around with a cloud over our heads, okay, but so that we can be aware to the reality. Death is a reality. It's the one thing that we can say for sure. All of us will die. Each and every person on this earth right now, in 100 years, will not be there. Will no longer be walking this earth. Maybe one or two, right, who will live to be 120 or something like that. But most of us, vast majority of us, will be long gone. in 100 years. That is something to consider, right? Why we want to think about this is because for a few reasons. One is to be prepared, for that moment of death so that we don't go into the process of death scared and kind of flailing and clinging to life and shocked, right? So that we can practice at the end of life. Okay. As a practitioner or someone who is a serious practitioner, that period right at the end of life is really important. It's a very important time for practice and a time during which one can attain full enlightenment. But even for non-practitioners, this is a really important time. So how we react to our own death, how we react to the death of our loved ones, can be really aided by the contemplation of death, the contemplation of impermanence, meditation on impermanence and death, and just, getting used to this idea that everyone dies and that we are also going to die. So now we're in this really unusual situation of this pandemic, which gives us a lot of opportunity to practice, right? We can practice with our fear. We can practice with the, death awareness. We can practice with impermanence, right? And I've talked about that in previous Sundays. You can look that up. But today is really about death. So every day as a Buddhist, we are meant to consider death. It's one of the four thoughts that turn the mind towards the Dharma, which I think I'll talk about next week. So those four thoughts that turn the mind towards the Dharma are, I always forget when I'm supposed to talk about it, but it's impermanence and death. That's one. Precious human life, which is really hard to get. So precious human life is a life that has all of the qualities and advantages and freedoms that are necessary in order to attain enlightenment. Okay. And then the suffering of samsara. So samsara is this round of birth and death and birth and death and birth and death over and over again in all these different forms that we have been kind of circling on since beginningless time. Okay. And then karma, law of cause and effect. So these four things are called the four mind changes or the four thoughts that turn the mind towards the Dharma. So Dharma is teaching and practice. Okay. So what does death have to do with that? How does contemplating death turn our mind towards the Dharma? Well, if we relate to these three other things, right? We know that right now we're alive, but we don't know when we're going to die. Okay. Death is certain, but the time of death is uncertain. If I asked you right now, can you tell me the day, the year, and the time that you will die? Not one of us could give that answer, right? And yet, most of us are not prepared at all. We're not prepared mentally. We're not prepared, practically speaking. We have this weird sort of assumption that everyone else will die except us. It's very, very strange because there's no evidence for that, right? There's no evidence for that. People die all the time. I give an exercise in my classes for people to list, and I encourage you to do this, to make a list of all the people that they know personally and just in the news that have died in their lifetime, or people they've heard that died maybe long ago, right? And if you do that, you will see the list, especially the older you are, the list becomes quite long, right? So if all those people died, if kings die and rich people die and young people die and babies die and, people with a lot of power die and holy people die, then how is it that I'm not going to die, right? Of course, we are also going to die. But this assumption we have that we're not going to die, this sort of really strong kind of habitual ignorance that we're not going to die is so strong. It's very hard to overcome. So we have to try to do that consciously. Okay. And one of those ways, well, there's 3 different things that we do. One is it's called listening or studying or hearing. And that's where we just sort of listen to the various, teachings about death and dying, and, hear those teachings. The second is contemplation. So then we take those ideas home and we think about it, is that true? Do I see that in my daily life? Do I not see that? Is it not true? Right? And we sort of contemplate it. We can also do sort of analytical meditation about it, which sort of falls between contemplation and meditation. And the third one is meditation. Okay. So what meditation does in all cases is meditation takes an idea or takes a thought or takes a concept and makes it a visceral experience. Okay, so that becomes part of who we are instead of just some kind of idea that we have. Okay, so these things are quite important. So the other thing is that from a Vajrayana or Tibetan Buddhist point of view, there is a whole process of dying that if we learn about, we can it can be really helpful for us and for helping others. For example, there's what's called dissolution of the elements in the process of dying. And in the text, it talks about what we experience as the person who's dying, right? Physically, mentally, sort of things that we perceive visually, and what other people see from the outside, from the beginning stages all the way through to the end. Okay. That's very interesting. And that's really helpful to know, because then when we are experiencing that as someone who's dying, we're not freaking out, wondering what's going on. We've got that already in our minds. Like, oh yeah, it's just that. I don't have to worry. I don't have to worry. I'm just dying, right? It sounds ridiculous, but I've been with people who are dying, and there's a lot of freaking out about that. But why? In a way, like, of course, it's understandable, right? We don't want to, we're afraid, we're going to, we don't know where, we're leaving our body, we're leaving our loved ones, our home, and a lot of things, right? And it's very painful and difficult. At the same time, like at some point, there's nothing we can do about it. So freaking out about it isn't going to really help. Panicking about it isn't going to really help, right? So we might as well just kind of accept this is what's happening. Okay. And then we can work with it in a way that is better for us in the present, better for us in the future, and better for our loved ones as well. Okay. So I have some books behind me here that I want to show you as just some good resources. There's a lot of different resources. If you go on our website, on the left column menu, there's a tab called resources, and under that it says, I think, recommended books or recommended reading, and there's a whole list, and it needs to be updated, but there's a lot of books in there, and they're divided by sections. So one section is death and dying, so you can look in that and for a start. But let me just have a look at these, take these books for you and explain them. So this one you might have heard about already. This one, it's Tibetan Book of Living and Dying by Sogyal Rinpoche. Is very, very good. If I could only recommend one book as far as death and dying is concerned, it would be this one so far. I haven't read anything better than this so far. Doesn't mean there isn't, but I haven't seen it. Okay. And the reason that I like this book so much is that it's not just talking in a very practical way about death and dying, but it also is giving some real simple explanations of some very basic Buddhist concepts that are often hard to explain, like rebirth and karma and things like that. So I think it's a very good sort of introduction to Buddhism book as well. So I will be referring to that in a minute, okay? And then the other one that is one of my very favorites, sorry, I'm just looking for another place to put these books while I talk, but is this one. It's called Preparing to Die by Andrew Holicek. Okay. And this one is also really good. And what I love about this one is this one, unlike this one has really good practical advice. So, for example, how to make a living will, how like what sort of funeral arrangements are available to you, how to talk to your family, what to do with your possessions, just like how to talk to the hospital, what do you want, things like that. So the first half is just really practical stuff, very, very useful. And it's modern. It's, it was written just published not long ago. So the information here is current. Okay. And then the second half is just teachings on death and dying from various Tibetan Buddhist masters. So this is a really good book. I highly recommend it. At some point, I will be, again, giving a class on this. I don't know when, but anyway, this is a really good book. So I highly, highly recommend this. Okay. And this, really brings to mind the importance of having ourselves prepared, right? Like what you see now with this virus is you see people young people also going into the hospital and never coming home. At some point, like their family can't go with them, right? Because it's because of the virus. And then they get put on a ventilator, and then they die. Like 86%, I think, of the people who get put on ventilators end up dying. And then they can't talk to their family. They're in a medically induced coma at that time. So it's really, really, really important that we make our wishes known, okay? That we have what we want medically, okay? And what we want done with our stuff, and what we want done with our money. And if we have children, what do we want done with our children? Who do we want to take care of them? Okay, things like that. Very, very important. And like we need to get over this hallucination or delusion that we're not going to die, or that we're only going to die when we're super, super old, and we're just going to die peacefully in our bed. Like we don't know. Here in Ohio, we had deaths from this virus from the age of 1 to 91, I believe, was the oldest person so far. That's the last stat that I remember. So everyone can pass away. And also, no matter how careful you're being, of course, please be as careful as you can. Please keep this social distancing, keep the masks on, etc. All right. But there's still no guarantee. And I'm not just talking about the virus. In the text, they say also, like, there's many ways to die, so many ways to die, and not that many ways to continue our life. And even the things that we do to support life can be the cause of death. So it's crazy. It's crazy, right? So if you think about it, if we just think about the virus, we can think like, oh, I'll just stay indoors all the time and I'll be fine. Yes, okay. Then maybe you cross the street to go to the store or something, and you get hit by a bus, or you have a brain aneurysm or a heart attack, And then the things that they say, like things that are supposed to support your life, like food, you could eat bad food and get food poisoning. You could choke on food and die. Or medicine, you could take the wrong medicine or the wrong combination of medicine. You see that a lot these days, especially with senior citizens, right? They're given, 20 different prescriptions, and sometimes people aren't paying attention. Doctors aren't paying attention, and they get, things given to them that should not be combined. Or the person themselves cannot keep track of all of that, and they lose track of when they took something and so forth, and they can die from that. So anyway, it's important, no matter what's going on, no matter our age, no matter our health, It's really important to be prepared. And then once you do it, once you go through all of that, legal stuff and practical stuff, then it's done, then it's done. And then if something changes, like you get married, you get divorced, you have another kid, whatever, then you just amend it, then it's not difficult. Then you can relax, and you can know, okay, I've done everything I can. At the same time, we have to understand that even as careful as we are, we have to accept the fact that our wishes might not be met. Okay? And we have to be cool with that. Because if in the process of dying, we freak out about that, that's also going to be a suffering for us and our family. Okay? Because ultimately, as far as I know, it's still this way. Your family has the final say. So, and sometimes the doctors make a decision that you didn't want. For example, like you might have a DNR and they might resuscitate you anyway, or you might not want to be put on life support, but they put you on life support anyway. Things like that can happen. So, and also most people say like, oh, I really want to die at home, but the vast majority of us will die in the hospital. So that's something to just be mentally prepared for. It's good to make your wishes known. And at the same time, it's really good to be prepared to not have those wishes honored. And the only reason for that is so that you're able to let go, of whatever happened, so that you don't create an agitated mind, which can result in a very difficult next step after death. Okay. So the other books I want to point out, this is a really new one by Songtsen Rinpoche. It's called Living is Dying. Okay. And I haven't read it yet, but I love Songtsen Rinpoche. I trust him completely. So I'm sure that it's very good. I just got it. So do take a look at that. After I get done with this video, I will put all these things in the doobly-doo under here, the description box under here. I just didn't have time to do it. So I will do it later today, so you can come back here and have a look for these books. And then this one by Yongye Mingyur Rinpoche is another really good one that I haven't read yet. It's called In Love with the World, A Monk's Journey Through the Bardos of Living and Dying. Okay, so I really recommend this one too. And the reason I recommend it is because he's an incredible master, an amazing teacher. So do look for this one as well. So we have to be prepared, right? We should know what to expect, both kind of spiritually and practically speaking, and prepare ourselves as best as we can. Okay, the best thing that you can do for your loved ones is to make your wishes known. All right, I've had a very terrible experience in my own life with someone very, very dear to me who did not make their wishes clearly known. Okay, you might get these little forms that are like maybe a couple pages long about your end of life preferences, like whether you want to be on life support or not, right? And you just initial here, initial there. You think that it's done, and it looks done because it's in black and white. Okay, no, it's really not done. Okay, language is very stretchy. All right, language is very, very stretchy. So it says on that form, something like, I do not wish my life to be prolonged, unnecessarily prolonged, something like that. Well, what does that mean? What does that mean exactly, prolonged, if you're on life support? Does that mean the moment you're on life support, you want the plug pulled? Does that mean a couple days? Does that mean a couple weeks? Or does that mean you don't want to be like Terry Schiavo? For those of you who might not know, she was part of a big debate, I think in the early 2000s. And, she was, anyway, on life support for a very long time. So we need to make that clear. We should be clear in our own head. We should write it down. Like, an essay, not just check here, check there. And we should talk to somebody that is close to us, who we have appointed as our executor during this time. Someone we trust, and someone we trust to do what we ask. Someone we trust to understand what we're asking and explain to them, sit down and have a talk with them. Same with our loved ones. It's really hard, it's not something people want to talk about, but we have to have the courage to do it ourselves, and we have to have the courage to ask our loved ones. Ask your wife, your husband, your partner, your family, your parents. Ask them, hey, I know maybe you don't want to talk about this, but it would really help me to know, what is it that you want? At some point, you're going to die, I'm going to die, everybody's going to die, but I would really like to know what it is that you want so I can put your wishes into effect. So can you please tell me? And then have your list of questions. And this kind of thing you'll find in that Preparing to Die book. Very, very good. And I'm sure there's other resources through hospice and things like that also. Okay. I remember my aunt. There's another thing that you can do, which is to pre-plan your funeral. You pre-plan it and you prepay it. I forgot what it's called. I think it might be just be called pre-planning. I can't remember. But anyway, you go to a funeral home. And I really recommend doing this, actually. It's very, very good. So you go through everything, like what kind of casket you want, what you want to wear, who you want to lead the service, what kind of music you want, where you want to be buried, or if you want to be cremated, or however you want your body disposed of, okay? And you make your own arrangements and you pay for it. And then they cannot charge you extra for that. Even if you die in 20 years, you won't pay an extra penny for that, okay? And then when you die, your loved one comes to the funeral home and they don't have to make those decisions. All they have to do is sign a paper and they're gone. My uncle did that. And when he passed away, my aunt said it was one of the nicest and most loving gifts that he ever gave her, because she didn't have to make any of those decisions. So I grew up in a funeral home. I remember these families coming in totally distraught and then having to make all these decisions, which are really, in any case, kind of difficult and complicated, and then not really knowing what the person themselves would want, right? So hard. So do that for your family. It's a really good idea. All right. Okay, so now it's 11. So let's do some meditation practice. Okay. So we are going to begin with mindfulness of breathing practice, first of all. And then I don't know, maybe we'll do Tonglen. Maybe we'll do a practice from here, which is quite nice for death, if I can find it. All right. So what you want to do is, if you're sitting in a chair, just have your feet flat on the floor. If you're sitting on the floor, just have your legs crossed, okay? And all the other instructions are the same. So main thing is that your spine is straight, okay? So you don't want to be slumped over like that. At the same time, you don't want to have it be overly, right? Just straight but relaxed. So your hands should be either palms down on your knees, palms up, resting one on top of the other like that in your lap, or with your fingers on top of each other and your thumbs touching like that, like you're holding an egg in your lap. Arms are relaxed, so you're not holding them in, you're not holding them out, just relaxed. You might want to just roll your shoulders back, kind of opens up your chest, okay? Back of your neck is also straight, right? So your chin's going to be tucked in. You don't want to be like this, okay? But just tuck your chin a little bit. Mouth is closed but relaxed, tongue resting on the roof of the mouth. You're breathing through the nose. Ideally, your eyes are open, looking down about halfway. So if you look straight ahead and then just lower your eyes halfway, it's a really good, relaxed, lowered gaze. So it's quite important, anyway, according to our teachers, to do that because, it's less likely that you fall asleep. Very practical. it's less likely that you fall into a kind of half sleep, which sometimes people think is meditation, but is really just half sleep. And also, we're trying to develop awareness, in daily life. So if we can only be mindful or aware when our eyes are closed, think about how limiting that is. Okay, so that's why we want to meditate with our eyes open. If you're not used to it, that's fine. You can train over time to meditate with them open. But anyway, that's what our teachers suggest. Okay. So how we do this meditation is we maintain this wonderful posture, and then we bring our attention to the breath coming in and out of the nose. Okay. So here, just focusing at the end of the nostrils, and that's just going to be the focus of our awareness. Okay. Relaxed awareness. All right. So let's just take a second to notice that first. Okay, so while you're maintaining awareness of the breath, you're allowing the thoughts to come and go. You're not running after them. You're not getting caught by them. You're not jumping down the rabbit hole of some big storyline. Just let them come, let them go. Keep your mind on the breath. If you get distracted, just bring your mind back to the breath. That's it. You get distracted, you bring your mind back. You get distracted, you bring your mind back. That's it. That's the practice. Okay. What this practice does is it allows us, sort of trains us to recognize when we're distracted, what distraction is, and recognize when we're aware, what awareness is. Okay. And become more and more quickly conscious of what's happening in the mind. So that if we find ourselves lost in, some big storyline, oh, I'm getting totally distracted, we bring our mind back. Or if we find ourselves completely subsumed by some kind of emotion like anger, through this practice, we can see, what, that's just an emotion. That's nothing. That's a cloud moving through the sky-like nature of my mind. I don't need to pay attention to that. I don't need to follow that. I don't need to take that seriously. Okay? This practice is so good. It's so important. So really try to do it properly. Try to do it every day. Okay? Even for a few minutes every day. It's a really great practice to do. You'll learn a lot about your mind. You'll learn a lot about others' minds actually too. Because all of our minds really work the same. I'm not saying we're all the same mind. I'm not saying that, okay? I'm just saying that, my anger is the same as your anger. Maybe I get angry about other things than you do. Maybe I get angry more often or less often. Maybe my anger is stronger or weaker, depending. But we all know what anger is. We all know what distraction is. We all know what love, hate, jealousy, we all know what that is. Okay? So the more we know our own mind, the more we understand others. And the more we understand others, the more compassion we can have for others, which is interesting, a little interesting kind of side effect of this practice. Okay? All right, so let's begin. I'm going to ring the gong to start. All you want to do is maintain the posture, keep your awareness on the breath, let the thoughts come and go like clouds in the sky without getting distracted by them. If you get distracted, or I should say probably when you get distracted, not a big deal. Just bring the mind back to the breath. Okay, let's do that now. Your mind should be as relaxed as possible while maintaining awareness of the breath. So relaxed awareness, okay? Very, very spacious. Lots and lots of room for all the thoughts to come through. Very settled. Just here and now, just being here and now. Okay, now please begin to count the breaths, counting either every in-breath or every out-breath, up to a total of 10 breaths. If you get lost in the middle, you lose count because you followed some thought, that's okay. As soon as you realize that, just bring the mind back. Start again at 1. If you get to 10, again, no big deal. Just bring the mind back. Start again at 1. If you go beyond 10, it's another form of distraction. So as soon as you realize that, no big deal. Just bring the mind back. Start again at 1. This is practice. If we were perfect at this, we wouldn't need to practice, right? So be gentle with yourself. Okay. Understand that it's a practice. And every time that you realize that you got distracted is a victory. That's your awareness arising, the very thing that we're trying to develop. Okay. So let's begin with the counting now, please. Counting the breaths. Every inhalation or every exhalation, up to 10 breaths. Mind and body together. Spacious awareness of the breath. Body as relaxed as possible while maintaining the posture. Okay. So I'm looking for the meditation that I wanted us to do. Let's see. If I can't find it, we'll just do something else. Okay, we'll just do something else then. I can't find it, and you probably don't want to sit there waiting forever. Anyway, okay. So, all right. Okay, so now we are going to do some Tonglen practice. Tonglen means giving and receiving. It's called the practice of exchange in English, and it is a practice specifically for developing a compassionate heart. Okay, so today we will do Tonglen for someone that we love, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time explaining it. I think most of you already know it, but anyway, I'll walk you through it, so there's no real need to explain it first. Okay. All right, so the first step of this practice, you take the posture again. But in this practice, if you want to close your eyes, it's fine. It's not as important as the other practice, okay? So I'm going to ring the gong. Just listen to the sound as long as you can hear it and let your mind rest. So what I mean by that is you're not trying to focus on anything. At the same time, you're not distracted. Just letting your mind kind of settle without a lot of agitation, okay? So that's the first step. Let's do that. So now imagine in your heart center, so that's the center of your chest, a very bright white light like a shining star with light going in all directions. And now consider that you're breathing in gray smoke, hot in temperature, dark, and heavy. It comes in through all the pores of your body and completely dissolves into the white light in your heart center till there's not a single particle left. There's only light. Now consider that you're breathing out white light, cool, clean, clear, very bright, through all the pores of your body, the light going in all directions. Very good. Now, imagine in front of you, picture in front of you, someone that you love a great deal, someone that you love without too much complication. So you know who that is. I don't need to say more. So just picture them before you, and then go into your heart and really feel the love that you have for them, recalling their many kindnesses, how you light up when they are in the room, how feel the love they have for you, how important they are in your life. And now consider the way or ways in which this person is suffering. So maybe physically, mentally, emotionally, and don't just think about it, but try to really, experience it. What does it feel like for them to have to go through that? So maybe they're really sick, or they have some other kind of physical difficulty. Maybe they suffer from depression or anxiety, addiction. Maybe they're lonely. Maybe they have mental illness, right? Maybe they're having trouble at home or at work or with their friends or their family. Whatever it is they're going through, just think about it. Try to really feel it. And when you do that, this natural tendency, this natural feeling of this urge to remove that suffering from them because you love them so much, you want them to be free of that suffering. That is love and compassion, okay? So then you imagine that all their suffering, whatever it is, takes the form of gray smoke, hot, dark, and heavy. It leaves them, it comes to you, and you breathe that in through all the pores of your body, and every particle of that smoke dissolves into the white light in your heart center until there's not a single particle left. There's only light. Now you offer this person your own happiness, your own good fortune, anything at all that they may need to be happy and free of suffering, along with the wish that they attain full and complete enlightenment in this very life. All of that takes the form of white light, cool, clean, clear, very bright. And you breathe that out through all the pores of your body. And the light goes towards this person that you love so much. And when the rays of light touch them, you see all of their suffering just totally disappears, just lifts off of them. And they look so relieved, happy, and at ease. And you feel joyful for being able to do this for them. Now we're going to send that out towards all beings, all sentient beings. So the first thing that we want to do is to imagine them all around us. Okay. So in front, as many beings we can conceive of, stretching all the way to the horizon. To the right, as many beings as we can imagine, stretching all the way to the horizon. Behind us, as many beings as we can imagine, all the way to the horizon. And to the left again, as many beings as we can conceive of, stretching all the way to the horizon. So now we're surrounded by a sea of sentient beings. And the first thing that we want to do is to consider the ways that we're alike. All of us want to be happy. None of us want to suffer. That's the main way that we're all alike. And yet all of us suffer to one degree or another. Then we want to consider our connection to all these beings. The Buddha taught that every single sentient being has at one point or another been our loving mother in a previous life. And that's just based on, we've been circling in samsara since beginningless time. Everyone else has been too. So at some point, everyone was our mother, really taking very good care of us. So you can accept that. You cannot accept that. It's fine. But at least we can consider the connectedness that we all have, that we share, and the way that we rely on each other. So this pandemic really shows that, right? How we are so connected in this world more than ever. And how we rely on each other with everything closed down, right? How we rely on people to grow our food, to make our clothing, to run the grocery store, to take care of us when we're sick in the hospital, to make things like ventilators and so forth, right? We really can't get through, not mention something so severe, but even day to day, we can't get through a single day without depending on others. Tuku Rinpoche always says, someone grows our food. How are we going to eat without others? Someone else makes our clothes, right? So forth and so on. So we think about that, our connection to all these beings, our sameness to all these beings. Okay? And then we consider all the different ways that they suffer. Some of them so intensely, right? Then we imagine that all their suffering, whatever it is, takes the form of gray smoke, hot, dark, and heavy, and it leaves them and it comes to you, and you breathe that in through all the pores of your body, and every particle of that smoke dissolves into the white light in your heart center until there's not a single particle left. There's only light. And then you offer all these beings your own happiness, your own good fortune, anything at all that they may need, and adding to that the wish that they attain full and complete enlightenment in this very life. And all of that takes the form of white light, cool, clean, clear, very bright. You breathe out this white light through all the pores of your body. The light goes in all directions as far as the eye can see. And when these rays of light touch all these beings, each individually, their suffering completely evaporates, just lifting off of them and disappearing like fog in the morning sun. Now we let go of the visualization altogether, gently bring the mind back to the breath, using that awareness of the breath to be in the present moment, here and now. Okay, now I'm going to say a prayer of dedication, once in English and once in Tibetan. I dedicate the merit towards the benefit of all sentient beings. By this merit, may all attain omniscience, may defeat the enemy, wrongdoing. From the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death, from the ocean of cyclic existence, may I free all beings. Sonam di jamche zikbani, tobne nebe janam punche shing, kegana chi badon trupaye, sibe tsule droa droa sho. All right, thank you so much for joining me this morning. If you have any questions, you can put them in the chat and I'll do my best to answer them. You have like 1 minute to put your question in if you have a question. Not seeing any. All right. Okay. Well, I hope you can join me next week. This happens every Sunday. Last Sunday of the month is a family meditation, but I'm still doing it here. Family meditation is on Zoom. So if you have a family or you know someone who has a family, make sure you sign up for the newsletter. All that information along with the books will be in the description, like in an hour as soon as I fill that out. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful sunny Sunday, at least in Ohio it is, and or Cleveland. So have a good day and please stay safe. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.